Hi, good morning everybody. This is Nicholas Teo from CMC Markets here in Singapore. A few things to actually talk about this morning. Firstly, let's start with the CPI numbers from China. CPI was announced at 9:30, just about 5 minutes ago or so. Came in slightly off, more or less in line. Didn't have anything much to do with the indices, namely your China A50, which has been on a tear yesterday actually. This move, or the huge move that we saw yesterday on the A50s, came as a result of expectations that, let me just take this out, of expectations that we may see China A shares being included into the MSCI Emerging Markets series of indices. Announcements due sometime later tonight. Now, several things has to actually be considered down here. First, if they were to be included, you're going to see a huge amount of funds possibly committed into the Chinese A shares index, and thus this euphoria that was built down here. But in very much of these cases, the inclusion itself will only take place sometime a year from today, roughly. I mean, MSCI has not made up the dates in question. They will be obviously announced tonight. The reason why the delay is going to take place is purely because funds from an administrative basis will also have to make provisions to allow for their fund managers or their funds to actually be able to transact down there with regards to Chinese or China quota systems, flow of funds, etc., etc. So the speculation here in the market is very much on the announcement itself, not on the actual date of inclusion. As a result of that, we think that it could see a buy on rumor, sell on a news sort of story that could take place, assuming a positive outcome comes tonight. Conversely, if the outcome becomes negative, meaning MSCI has chosen to defer the inclusion of Chinese A shares into their emerging market series, we may see downside being tested once more. So it's certainly one of the more volatile sort of indices that have been trading of late. We saw a huge gain yesterday. Today we are actually taking a little bit of a breather, at least from an initial point of view. Remains to be seen. The other big story has been on the euro dollar. The euro dollar moved in a big way last night. If I can just pull out a bigger show, we had this huge candle basically gaining as much as about 200 pips or so. Now, while there has been no specific reason for that strength, it could be perhaps because we saw a sort of weakness in the US dollar, as it was to some degree being talked down or managed down by Obama, who's actually, or President Obama, who's actually in Europe on a conference down there. So whatever it is, from a chart's point of view, you are seeing this being tested on a Fibonacci 38% level. It's also hitting the first standard deviation on the Bollinger Band. This is a series of double Bollinger Bands that we have presented down here. A breakup of this could see this next level being tested around the 115 level or so. Conversely, if we don't see this being broken up or being tested, we may see this support at around 1127, call it, being tested. If this breaks through, then we are seeing probably another firmer support around the 1096110 level, sort of. But whatever it is, this move triggered a knock-on effect or knock-on impact on the DAX last night. As we saw stronger euro, the DAX was marked down quite sharply, and this is at the risk of, or rather at the cost of, it breaking this previous low down here of around the 11,200 levels for I mean, let's call it there. So this is definitely putting pressure on equities, or the strong euro dollar is putting pressure on equities, and the rationale is very simply, with a higher euro, whether a more expensive euro per se, you're going to see European, German companies for that matter, exporters, lose out on that cost competitiveness as they compete in the world's markets. So certainly pressures down there, and it's a knock-on impact on that. From an equity point of view, just one quick mention on SGX. SGX announced that they have selected a new or marked a new CEO, Mr. Loh Boon Chye, who comes in with quite a few years of experience in the local market as an investment banker, always being involved in the financial services sector down here. So the positive price movement down here is a firm endorsement that, well, one, we've got a new person that that has always been speculated the last couple of months or so, when the old incumbent, Mr. Magnus Boker, announced his resignation. So at least it gives a little bit of cheer in an otherwise very, very quiet and lifeless local Singapore market. But it's just one of the few places, I think, that are at least sparking a little bit of life down there. Besides that, I think we're just going to wait for this MSCI announcement later tonight then. Thank you very much.